Right, guys, so we have trained, and Sass has kind of given me 20 minutes of his time to go through some questions, because one thing I really want to do with this series is delve a little bit into kind of elite athlete mindset, I suppose. So I've got some questions. Whether we'll cover all of these, any of these, I don't know. Me and Sass will probably just have a nice chat about whatnot, but it's going to be fun. So first off, thank you for being the first person on the Pro Series.
Welcome, mate.
You know,
Welcome.
I've known you for over a decade,
Yeah,
I think now.
2012 it
Yeah,
was.
2012, and you know, Sass not only is an incredible bodybuilder, which is why I wanted him on the channel for the training, but he's a very genuine, knowledgeable, and great guy. So
Thank you.
we'll get straight into like a few questions, and then just sort of spiral it from there, really.
Sounds good.
But I want people to get to know, I mean, I imagine people know of Sass, but then a little bit more behind you. So, like the reasons you got into bodybuilding. Let's just start there. Let's start with the basics, mate.
Nice and simple. So, I guess the first time I trained was when I was 13. What led to that was I was born in Iran.
Right.
I was born and I was a shy kid to begin with. We moved here when I was 6.5, 7.
Okay.
So I'd already had I knew the language in Iran, reading, writing. So I came in, it was like, okay, we got to start again.
Yeah.
So you put a shy kid in a new country,
Right.
in a new school, he doesn't speak the language. So it was all of a sudden, it was like, I was in my own little world then. I didn't know how to speak.
Yeah.
I was learning fast, but I became more closed off.
Yeah, you're the
I didn't
outcast
speak,
in a
yeah.
degree, yeah.
Then when I was 11, I remember my dad put me into kickboxing. He found a kickboxing class near us, and he went to the instructor. He said, just toughen him, because I was shy and I was getting pushed around a bit.
Okay.
And he said, toughen him up. So I started learning how to train, how to do kickboxing, and I did like it. Then I started watching the movies,
Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme,
Yeah.
Arnold, Stallone. I started noticing the physiques. And even as a kid, I loved the action figure.
Mate, it's like so
it's
much
the same. It's the same thing,
here,
just
yeah.
different routes.
Yeah.
So I like that strength.
Yeah.
'Cause being a shy kid, I didn't speak much. So
Yeah.
for me, it was like, okay, so physically, I like being
The physique and the confidence. Like, I had a massive connection there in my head.
Yeah,
If I was
sports.
physically, I'd be more confident.
Exactly. Like we needed kind of like an armor almost.
Yeah.
A way to speak out and express ourselves.
Yes.
For me, I started basketball at the same time. I fell in love with basketball. So I had basketball and kickboxing, and then the movies, and I thought, I want to be big and muscly like these guys. So I remember I was 13, and my auntie, we were leaving a party, family party, and I saw a shooting star, and my auntie was like, make a wish. And my wish at the time was, I want to look like Arnold.
Yeah.
And it sounds a bit cheesy, but literally.
Yeah.
So like that summer, my mum took me to Argos and I bought a set of weights. So it was a York set. So you got the bench with a swivel on the end for hamstrings and
the little like twirly bar. With
you
had
had to spin
the thing about 5 minutes.
It was a great set. So and then it came with the poster
Yes.
of a little cartoon
Yeah,
guy,
yeah.
and he did all the exercises.
Yeah.
So I just started copying him.
Right.
So I was 13. There was no internet.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was magazines. I didn't know anything. I didn't have an uncle to teach me. So I literally started copying this poster, like curls and chest presses, and every day, as soon as I could, I would try and do as many of them.
Yeah.
It was like, the frequency was like 4 times a day. So that was all I had. And then I said to my mum, I was like, I want to grow. She was like, well, babies drink milk. Yogurt's got calcium in it. So I started eating a load of yogurt, which isn't bad, but I was just eating her food, which Persian food is pretty much bodybuilding.
I was going to say, like, I think you're onto a winner there. For
every
time you post, like, when you go home to your mum, not only to look delicious, but from a bodybuilding point of view.
And I didn't understand that till later on.
Yeah, quality.
They had the superfoods in there. They had the meat, the rice.
Homemade, quality protein,
wholesome food.
Carbs, yeah.
So I already had that. And then, so that was 13. I got to 16 when I went into my first gym. It was at my sixth form college.
Yeah.
So by then, I actually went to college, and after the first week, I was known as the guy with the muscles.
Okay.
So it worked. Whatever I did at home, I started to grow.
Yeah.
And then in the gym, me and my mates were messing around, and I noticed that I was considerably stronger than the other guys. I could do the curls with like almost stack.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they weren't heavy like.
Yeah, but still.
And then when I was 8, so college you mess about a bit, but I knew that by then I wasn't a kickboxer. and I wasn't a basketball player, which are the two things I wanted. I knew I wanted to be a pro at something sporty.
Yes.
Because in school, no one spoke to me till they saw me play basketball.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it was like,
this guy's worth something.
yeah. So I was made captain, and I was good at tennis, and then that's how I started to make quite a few friends. Yeah. So I thought, right, I need to be a sportsman. I need to be a pro basketball player or kickboxer or something. Anyway, basketball didn't work out. I stopped growing. I had the skill, I just couldn't jump as high. And kickboxing was something that I loved the training. Yeah. So it was when it was me, I loved it, the technique work. But when I got in the ring, there was something holding me back. I don't think I had that kind of, the eye of the tiger, so to speak. Yeah. I couldn't keep my eyes. Like every time someone went to hit me, I'd kind of like, I'd flinch, which I knew wasn't a fighter's edge type thing. So I knew I was going to uni, so I thought, I'll play rugby. Or at least I'll try something at uni. All the while I was weight training in the background, and I was growing. I got to uni, and I didn't want to do any sports at the time until my mate at my lecture said, why do you come to training on Monday? Because you're quite stocky. So I went and I loved the training.
Okay,
I loved the training, yeah. I thought, I want to be a rugby player. But you know, like rugby's something you kind of have to grow into from quite a young age. Like football, you can't just drop in when you're 18. Yeah, it's very rare.
Hard, yeah.
Physically, I was great. I was a great runner. I was a great tackler. I was great in the training, in the gym, and on the pitch. But when it came to the technique, the plays, I was lost.
That kind of eye.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't have that. But I had fun. We had fun. But by that point, I'd built enough size for the team to think that I was using anabolics, which I wasn't. Yeah. And I remember one time I had my back shaved because I wanted to see what it was like, and then the next day it just broke out in spots. I remember in the changing rooms I started hearing whispers, see, I told you. They blamed it on anabolics. Yeah, cool. But that's when I knew, okay, so maybe I've got something for bodybuilding. So I started watching YouTube, and I started copying Ronnie and Lee Priest and Jay. By the time I was 21, when I graduated, everyone in my gym thought I was a bodybuilder. Yeah. And I was still natural at that point. Right. But I just loved to train. So it kind of, that gave me the confidence to express. I was the guy everyone went to by that point for advice. Yeah. What do you eat? How do you build your physique like that? And that gave me the confidence that I wish I had when I was a kid. Yes. So that's what made me think maybe, and then people at the gym started saying you should get on stage, and I brushed it off, but it made me feel good. Yeah, it made me feel like someone said you can be a British champion. Yeah. So it gave me this confidence that I hadn't really had growing up. Finally I had it, and I didn't have to try and fit in with anyone else. Yeah. So it was me in my own little world. Place. Yeah. And I did it all on my own. It was my food at home, my training, watching other people. Then throughout my 20s, I was kind of focused on getting a job after uni, and I never really thought, competing's not going to get me anywhere. Yeah. I knew the magazine, I knew the pros. Yeah. Even at 22, I remember seeing a picture of Ronnie Coleman on my rugby captain's computer, and I was like, that's too much, that's disgusting. I still wasn't in it yet. Yeah. I remember seeing Mark Dugdale, I don't know if you remember him. Yes. He was kind of like the extreme for me that I'd like to get to. Right. But even that seemed unrealistic. Yeah. But you graduate into the upper levels of bodybuilding and you start trying stuff. I think I was 23, went to the dark side. And by the time I was 25, I was in LA for a cousin's wedding, and I found a gym. And then a few lads came up to me in the gym, like, are you a pro bodybuilder? Can we get a picture? Okay. So that's when I thought, you know what, I need to do something. Yes. I need to get on stage just to see what it's like. Yeah. And my first prep was 27, and I hated it, but
that was 2012.
That was 2012, that was when I met you. That was my first show was when I qualified for the British.
Yeah, because just as a reference, so I did Inters over 90s UKBFF in 2012. And you did, was it the Manchester show?
I did, I think it was Leeds. Yeah. Was it Northeast, Northwest?
Something like that.
We met in Sportex, which was in Manchester. We met at the finals. Yeah, we met at the finals. I remember coming up to SAS, kind of half hoping he was going to compete, half hoping he wasn't. Because I wanted to see this guy, because this is the time where it was a kind of forums. Yeah. There wasn't really, I think Instagram maybe just come about. It was just starting.
But it wasn't really a thing. So the bodybuilding world was sort of like whispers and things like that, and it was really exciting because
it was.
You heard of these new guys, and SAS was one of them. And I remember going up to you and you said, "Oh, I'm not doing that." I can't remember your reasoning. I think
I
You
just
didn't
wasn't.
like you
I
weren't
didn't feel
quite
ready. Yeah.
But I'd seen like pictures in the magazines and online of Sass like at his qualifier and just was like, that's someone else. And that was one hell of a year. That would have been awesome if you had competed.
Yeah, that
Not
would have
only
been
for
amazing.
me
Yeah.
as a fan, but like obviously you had Luke.
Yep.
You had.
Oh yeah, of
like,
course.
Yeah, Luke came second that year.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I remember Neil Andrews was there.
Yeah.
I think Grant Baldwin won it. And like,
Yeah,
just in
Baldwin won
terms
it.
of
Yeah, you're right.
the quality and the depth of that lineup. I mean, I stood at the back for the whole show, just watching as a part of the scenery. But I enjoyed it, and it gave me a lot of like drive moving forward. So
It was
yeah,
scary
so that was
for
the
me.
start.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the start. And I didn't do the show, and I got so much stick for not doing it. I remember I got qualified, and I just thought, well, I'm not going to do it. And everyone was like, why? You could have given that to someone. It's like, well, I'm not ready. I saw it differently, and that went into my pro career as well.
I think that's a very you have a very like good way of thinking about it though. Like quite like, for that age or for that time in your career, like a mature.
Yeah.
Like I'm nowhere near where I could be.
Yeah.
So why?
It came back to me creating this bodybuilding world for myself. Like, everything else I did in my life, I was a follower. Like I was just a part of the crew.
Yeah.
And I do what I'm told. Whereas bodybuilding was, this was on my
Your
terms.
world,
It was the only thing that I could excel at, which was up to me.
Yeah.
So I didn't like being told what to do. So, and then all of a sudden everyone was like, you need to do the finals. Like, no, I don't want to do it. Yeah. That was one part. The other part was I wanted a physique that would be in with a chance of winning.
Away.
And I knew that I needed to work on condition because I wasn't peeled in my first show.
Yeah.
I was like 8 pounds off or something. So I thought, next show I want to do, I want to make sure I can get a bit peeled before I get on the biggest stage in amateur bodybuilding. So that's how it started.
And that was when the British was the thing.
It was the one show a year,
One pro card, all in.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Right. Yeah. I mean,
sorry, I probably rambled a bit.
Mate,
too much.
no. Like this is what I want to hear. Like, obviously I know a lot of your journey, but just hearing kind of, and it's nice for me because the similarities, even things like the superhero action figures, I mean, the confidence thing I can massively relate to, and doing it for yourself, and like hopefully that's a message people can take away is, especially today where people just want to get on stage because that's what
very
people
quickly,
do. Like do it because you love bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is so positive; it gets quite a bad rep.
100%. Yeah.
But you can build so much. You know, you've built your physique, built your confidence. I'm sure, you know, built your relationships. Like, you know, I know for me, like if I wasn't the person I am through bodybuilding, I wouldn't have the confidence to be with the woman I'm with. And likewise with coaching and work and everything, it's just,
it's been the foundation. 100%, I agree.
So, to this point, because I know there's more to come, highlights of your career so far?
It's so, the highlight, the one that really, I think, and makes me smile, is probably winning the British. I know it's because, you know, you're at the pinnacle of that stage. You're the best amateur in the country. But I think because, it happened so quick for me, but it didn't in a way, because I remember at my first show, or at my second show in 2013 was when judges started saying, next pro. That's when the word
Hype
pro
started,
came. But that was 2013. I didn't win till 2015. So from that 13, I thought, oh, okay, well, I am good enough. Like in a way, I always doubt. As a bodybuilder, we doubt. We always criticize. We're quite harsh.
That's what pushes you forward.
Yeah. So I went into that British final and I won. So I was just winning. All of a sudden, it was like, and then it became a little bit, okay, I'm going to be the next pro. So I put that in my head.
Accepted.
Yeah. So 2014 came along, and because I won the year before, I didn't need to qualify. And I thought, oh, okay, this is my show. Everyone was saying it. But I let that go into my head. First mistake I made. And then Nathan shows up and beats me in the heavies. And I was like, I didn't even win my weight class. All of a sudden, it was like, oh. I was gutted. I remember my uncle came up to me after the show, and he was the only one who said that he put his hand on my shoulder and said, you needed that. And I was like, you're right. So I had my head down for the rest of the year, for the next 12 months. I was like, okay, I need to do something different. So I started training really hard, like harder than I ever had, and it was focused. And I had 2 other jobs at the time, so it was really hard for me to juggle everything. So it was a bit of a it was a big challenge. And I went into the finals literally like this timid kid again. Like, have I done enough?
Yeah.
And I had done enough, but it's like it all came together. There was like a knockback, and then all of a sudden you were the king of the country type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was just a really nice feeling. And that's when I just realized, okay, this is, because I said to Chris that year, I said, if I don't go pro this year, I'm not going to bother because it's too much. It's too much stress. You know, prep is too much stress. It's too much money. You know, I want to be able to have a family soon and support them. I can't waste time just trying to be a bodybuilder when it's
if that's what it's going to be.
And he said, no, you'll go pro. So when I went pro that night, I emailed him again. I said, can I be a good pro? Because I don't want to just be. And he's like, yeah, you can. But that's when I thought you had to be a winner to make a career from it. Back then it was different.
Yeah.
There's more opportunities now. So that's why I had this mindset. Whereas as I started to get into my pro career, I realized actually I can be a pro and make a living from it. I started coaching, and so I'm glad I stuck with it. But it was a kind of a turning point for me. It was like, right, am I going to put everything into this or not? So that win was it was a really nice relief.
I think that was the good thing about how things were set up. I know people give it a lot of stick. There was only one pro card.
Yeah.
But if you win that pro card, you are going to be a good pro.
That's the
like
thing.
Nobody who won the pro card back then didn't have
No.
a pretty damn good career.
No, you're right.
In the ranks, whereas obviously now, you know, they're obviously still hard. It's still not.
It's hard.
It's still not given out like people say they are. But there are a lot of, and I would like class myself. There is a lot more middle tier pros who can get there and compete. But like for what? Again, this is my reason for stepping back because I know my ceiling.
Yeah. That's it.
Cool.
It's hard to have that mindset as well, though, because bodybuilding's not like other sports. You know, you can win without winning.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can falsely keep going because you think, well, it's all right, I'll get better. And you can always keep improving, but you have to have in mind that it's not forever, is it?
Yeah, and then the sacrifices behind that.
Exactly, yeah.
So, we kind of touched on. I was going to ask you biggest disappointment. So I suppose that 14 was a big one from a competitive standpoint. But like,
other than that,
what about from like, is there anything along your journey that you like regret?
Let's see. Any regrets? If you'd asked me, no, because. So when I initially stopped in 2013.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. Back in, I went pro in 2015. In 2016, I did my pro debut, came 5th. First call out, I was sat backstage and there was Dallas McCarver, Johnny Jackson, Brandon Curry, Michael Lockett, Akeem Williams. So I was sat there, pro debut, I was like, oh. I was enjoying it though. I didn't have any expectation. And then they had to call my name twice into the first call out because I just didn't think I'd be there. So being in with those guys was just incredible. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to do really well at this. And then the 2017 came along, I did the New York Pro. And I kind of went in still not expecting too much because there was big names in the show.
Yeah.
But they kind of like, it was a bit funny. They had me in the first call out, then they dragged me back out. And when I was looking at some of the videos and pictures, I was just, I didn't want to doubt the judges,
but
I was also a bit like, and then it was all the other people around that were kind of
in politics,
like,
yeah.
And then the week after, I completely destroyed that person who swapped me out. They swapped me out for like he didn't even come. So the consistency was kind of that's from then on. It became a little bit of bitterness started to grow.
Okay.
So I was thinking, what's the point? I'm traveling all the way here. I'm barely breaking even, and I'm putting everything into this. Like I would put everything. I'd put so much into a prep after that show. Chris called me the one show wonder, because when I'd return home after that show, my body would just start to eat itself.
Yeah.
I was so lean, so dry. I couldn't quite juggle continuing after one show. Anyway, so I thought, all right, 2018. The week after New York, I got beat again, which again, it's the way it is. We all have to pay our dues kind of way.
Yeah.
But it was breaking me down a little bit,
Yeah.
and I let it break me down
Right.
because I was listening to outside voices and I was becoming bitter. That bitterness was just growing. And then it was 2018, again, put everything on the line, and I lost to Nathan, which I didn't mind losing to him because I know he's a great bodybuilder. But at the same time, I could see where I could win as well. That's when I kind of, I had a couple of injuries, so I was using painkillers, but I extended the use of them, which I didn't need to, because I liked the feeling.
Yeah.
And every now and then I'd have a drink, which I didn't need to. This all came out of me being a bit bitter and expecting more from the shows, which I shouldn't have. This is what kind of started to kill my passion, because I lost focus of why I was doing it. I let all this noise come in, and I was just settled with this bitterness. So I stopped. I thought, I'm going to work on my coaching, have a kid. That's the best thing I think I did. In hindsight, I shouldn't have had to do that. I shouldn't have had to pull away. I shouldn't have lost the passion for it. It's like I had too much of an immature mindset. That set me. That's the regret. I wish I maybe could have gone about those couple of years a little bit differently. Let myself mature a bit and remember why I was doing it.
But then the maturity came.
Maturity came later.
That,
yeah,
you know,
exactly. So you don't know, do you?
Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it? But I know I appreciate that. Like, definitely. And you know, I haven't really experienced that as such.
Yeah.
But I know, like my last show, the France show, I certainly felt in terms of like just like judges and being like judged.
Yeah.
The same. It felt different, and I suppose that's just something you have to accept.
It is.
As a
but then it's like how far do you
sport.
accept? How long do you accept it for? You know what I mean?
Especially if it's costing you, like you say, like you know, at that point, you know, the difference between second and first. That's
a big paycheck.
That's a prep.
Yeah.
You know, that's worth it. And
when you're putting everything on the line, it's hard to look at it subjectively. Like. Yeah, it is. It was hard, but like you said, it's the years away from it started to clear all the noise out, cleanse in a way, and then the passion came back in.
You had your family, you got things there.
Now it's a different reason to do it. Just hope I'm not too old.
Time is limited for all of us. But, so a couple of questions that I know people will like. You know, these are quite common ones that I get asked, and I'm sure you would. Like, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? I suppose within bodybuilding, keep it there.
I'm going to double barrel this a little bit. One is Chris Aceto, and this sounds really simple, really simple.
Often the best advice.
Yeah, don't stress. I know it's just vague, but he told me at a time where, and I think loads of bodybuilders suffer with this.
Massively.
It's just overthinking and letting your stress levels kind of get a little bit out of hand, because nothing good comes of it. I think whether you're in prep or you're in your off season or you're pre-stage, you're about to go on stage, or peak week, stress just does not do any good. It can completely ruin your condition within very quickly, or it can just ruin a training session. It can ruin your appetite. It can ruin your sleep. Like he says, no stress, and it's like, oh, well, that's easy. It's being able to handle stress levels, I think, comes with being a very good bodybuilder. Like you look at Jay and Dorian and Ronnie, and they have this kind of this flatline level of stress that they're chilled.
They're calm.
There's almost like, is anyone in there?
Got that, like whether you like, I'm sure it's been developed. But you have
that
aura about you.
Yeah, genetically, I was always very chilled as a kid, which I think helps as a pro. It's almost like Sean Roden said it to me as well. He said, learn how to relax. You cannot go 100 miles an hour year round, you'll just burn out. And I see people burning out all the time. And
well, that's funny because there's an Amazon documentary on Ronnie. I can't remember what it's called. I don't know if it's recently out, but like I know like Kevin O'Brien said to him before we started winning, he gave him a few drinks. He said, just relax, man, just relax. And then the next day he went and smoked everyone, and that was the beginning of the reign. So
it's hard because nowadays people will look at that as laziness. Oh, he's not hardcore. Or, well, he can relax because he's got the genetics. Like they'll always play it. But I think
the amount of information that people are throwing as well, it's hard not to overthink.
Like we said before, like sometimes I feel like I made the most progress when I didn't quite know 100% what I was doing. Which leads me to my other part of that answer, Lee Priest, I was doing my first show, Prep, and he was on Twitter. So I tweeted him and I said, I'm doing my first show.
First ever show?
First ever show.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so cool. 2012. And he said, in fact, I didn't do that show because I fractured my wrist in the gym. But I said, just doing my first show, I wanted to say, thanks for being such an inspiration. I didn't ask him anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And he just said, listen to your body. Your body's going to be your best coach.
Okay.
And I'm not saying you shouldn't have a coach, but that kind of made me have faith in what my body was telling me instead of trying to look for answers outside. I feel like that helped me along the years, because sometimes I'll get stuck and I'm just thinking about my plan or my off season, and then I just think, all right, what's my body doing? Yeah. Sometimes you can disconnect yourself because there's so much information.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a great piece of advice, actually. And
yeah.
obviously, with the coaching industry as it is, everyone feels like they need a coach. And obviously, we're two coaches sitting here, so this is probably going to be against business, kind of. Do you know what I mean? But I think clients are a lot easier to coach when they know a bit about themselves.
Yeah. They can feed back to you.
It's relevant, and I think if you don't experience that, and I've had clients who've gone, you know, I'm going to try and coach myself for a bit, and I'm like, absolutely go for it, because worst case scenario, you'll just learn.
And that makes you a good coach.
And,
you could easily say, well, it's not, you know.
Yeah, and that's that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Drop the prices of it.
Exactly. Now, I think there's something to be said for trial and error.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've got one more main question, but before we get there, we've touched upon it a little bit through the session and through now, but what's next for SAS?
Okay. So
this is as much for me as anything. I want to hear the lowdown.
I ask this question every day too. So obviously I've just done my comeback.
Yeah.
6 years off stage, so I didn't know how it was going to go, and I hadn't
Everyone
planned.
Else did, mate.
I hadn't. Hey.
Everyone else.
Well, I know it's just worst critic again.
Yeah, self-doubt.
Obviously, a lot's changed. 33 to 38 it's a big gap.
Yeah.
Your body can change, your metabolism, injuries, wear and tear. I've got 2 kids.
Yeah.
I've got a coaching business that's thriving, and there was a lot to handle. And then you go into prep, you go straight into the deep end again, pro show, and I didn't quite have anything past it planned just yet. I just wanted to see how I looked, how I
get a feel for the new. I mean, it's
the new body,
the
new crop.
Yeah.
So it was quite scary, and I decided at 8-9 weeks out to prep myself.
Yeah.
Nothing against Chris; he's always been absolutely perfect with me. We've always been that. He's always dialed me in. Yeah. I just needed fluidity with the kids, with the coaching. I couldn't be the same pro as I was 6 years ago because it was me and my dog and my girlfriend, and that was it. Yeah. I could nap. He could tell me to do whatever.
Client.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This time I was like, I wasn't happy, and then Leanne was like, if you're not happy, if you want to coach yourself, just. And then within a couple of days, even though it was even scary, I was like, what the hell am I thinking? How am I gonna coach all these other guys, have 2 kids, and do this and that, and then actually dial myself in? Because you know yourself, it can play tricks.
Yeah.
But because it scared me, I wanted to take it on as a challenge. So I did, and it worked out well. Other than show day, I probably could have ate a bit more food. Other than that, all the other decisions I made worked out. So that was a plus point. And then on stage, after coming off stage, the feedback was amazing. Even backstage, and the night before, I had the new crop of pros coming up to me and asking for pictures, and that made me feel good. It felt like I belonged still. Yeah. I didn't feel like an outcast. But then being called into the first call out with Bonac, Berus, and Crizzo was just like, that blew my mind. That was like, oh, okay, so I'm still in the mix.
Right.
And then speaking to Tyler, and Tyler didn't have anything negative. He said, looked like you lost condition through the chest, but that was a flatness issue. And he said, just do more shows. He didn't say you need to get bigger, you need to do this. He said, fix your rear double. My rear double's a bit, because I'm rounded forward. That's just a flexibility thing. Yeah. So since then, I thought, well, I could continue doing more.
Fourth.
I came fourth, behind Crizzo.
I remember watching that and thinking, I would have had you above Crizzo.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people said the same.
I think the hype was behind him. Like that was
He was a returning winner.
And also just like, everyone's going, oh, I like
well, he was 7th at the Olympia.
Yeah.
So when they called me and him as a pair at the night show, in my head I was like, okay, so they don't know who to choose, which means I'm close to him. I'm pushing him. And that sealed it for me. I was like, right, I want to get to the Olympia. I said it to myself there and then. I need to get to Olympia, but I want to have a clean run because I'd been prepping since October. This is June.
Yeah.
For the Arnold UK, which I didn't get an invite for.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
I remember I think I did a story about it saying they
you did,
sort
yeah.
the shit out.
You did, yeah. Which was a bit of a shame, but I'd been dieting for a long time. My body was tired.
Yeah.
So that I don't want to keep competing because I want to be fresh. I want to give these guys a run for their money next year. Spoke to Jordan and Corin, and they said they'll support me with my season next year to try and get to the Olympia. So that's it. I shut it down. Went into an off season. I don't need to make huge gains, so health is still a nice priority.
Yeah.
But I am pushing.
Yes.
In the last 6 years, I've not pushed much, especially weight-wise, size-wise.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I come in as full as I can, a bit bigger, usual conditioning, and then I'm going to try and get back to Spain.
Right.
I want to build up some hype as, he's coming back to win it this time.
Yeah.
But then try and do a few shows back to back, like Italy, Portugal.
Yeah, it's a nice little run around it, like not too stressful from a travel point of view.
Exactly,
as well.
if you can keep it local. I know they like seeing you in the US, Tyler and stuff, but I'd like to do some here first.
If you can do it here, then do it here.
Yeah, and they like to see you, so I can't just show up and leave.
Yeah.
I need to try and do a few shows. So that's my
I
next
think you're
goal.
one of the few who maybe could turn up and leave if it,
If I make enough improvements and it's the right show, I think in Spain, Tyler was he turned around to me at the end, he's like, so where have you been then? So he was kind of like, he was eyeing me up type thing again.
Yeah.
So I think if that is to happen again, I want to make sure I've got a couple planned.
Yeah.
But that's my goal. I just really want to get to the Olympia, or at least give it my best shot, because I don't want to do this much longer. Depending on how I do next summer will dictate whether I retire in 25 or 26. I don't want to go past 26.
Yeah.
I think it's getting a bit
To
too...
be just into your 40s then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just don't want the health risks to extend.
Yeah. Especially with a young family.
That's it. You don't know,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're doing to your future self type thing.
And that is the tricky thing about retirement. That's one of the things I not battled with as such. So I had quite an easy decision in the end. But there is always at some point this could bite you in the arse.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, you can keep your health in check, but it's still.
You can feel great. Your bloods could be great.
Yeah, you're still. It is effectively a ticking time bomb. So.
Yeah, the heart's working overtime for us.
And this is what I love about just listening to you is there's that measured approach to bodybuilding. It's a huge level of passion, a huge work ethic, but knowing that there is more out there. And it takes
definitely
age. If I watched this interview 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh, that's two old codgers. Because we would just do whatever.
Me too,
do whatever.
Yeah.
But it's nice to talk about because it is important. Maybe not talked about enough. Right. Final question.
You're right.
Super simple in terms of me asking it, but what does success mean to you? And that encompasses life.
Everything.
Everything you can think of, and just your thought process.
I think I might answer this differently because I know everyone wants the money and I do as well. But for me, I'm not driven by it. I think for me, it's the passion. Okay. Which is probably why I'll never be rich. But for me, success is when you're not financially stressed at all.
Yeah.
So you're at the point where, I'm good. I can pay all the bills. I can buy some nice things. I can buy a nice big house. Yeah. Doesn't mean millionaire.
Yeah.
For me, what really heightens that success is the happiness and the people around you that you've kind of can share it with.
Yeah.
Because you can get a ruthless entrepreneur that's made millions, and the best thing anyone can say about him is, he's pretty ruthless.
Yeah, he worked hard.
Yeah, he's worked hard, but who's he got to share it with? And what's been the side effects getting him there? I want to be able to sleep nicely when I'm 60, 70, 80, and I want to be able to play with my grandkids, or I'm not saying I want to live really old. I just want to live a really quality life. So I think if you were to put success at the top as a heading. Under it has to be some form of health, happiness, passion, like just being able to go around and have a positive impact on other people as well. Have a bit of experience to share, like the opposite to selfishness, negativity, like anger, aggressiveness. Like I think that stuff ages you and it just kind of takes away the light very quickly, kind of thing. So that to me, I know it's a bit of a random
No, I
answer.
like that a lot, and unsurprisingly, I can relate to that.
Like I'm not the guy who, I don't want to be 100% hardcore all the time. I want to kind of space out my energy.
Sometimes I think speaking about these things, you sound lazy. Like
Yeah.
I know I do,
Yeah.
like because it's very similar to like
Yeah.
the reason I'm where I am and where I want to go is you want to live a comfortable life, and I think that there's people hear comfy and they think lazy, but then you can only get to a comfortable life if you've worked fucking hard.
Yeah.
Unless it's gifted to you, which for 99% of us it isn't.
It's not. No.
I think that's a fantastic answer.
It's hard.
I really do.
It's hard in this day and age.
Yeah.
It
and
is
especially
hard.
when it's pushed on you. Money is so important, and material things are so important. That's really good to hear.
It started off with me getting pushed into, not in a bad way, into uni. That was like the culture was finish education, get a really good degree, and get to work. That veered me away from hard work because I didn't like being pushed. So I have to be in control of what I'm doing. I think that's what's led me here in bodybuilding terms, and that's what's given me everything I have today. So
it's discovering the passion.
I think the passion drives you.
Yeah.
It's like if you're in a chest session that you're not enjoying, you're missing out on those extra few percent of intensity because you just want to get it done.
And if that passion's missing in life, you're not going to live as hard.
And I feel like that's the same. Yeah. You look at a lot of the most successful people in history. They've kind of done something they've loved.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure Elon Musk is doing something he loves.
Yeah.
The Apple guy, something he loves. He loved. It starts with, how can I make this work for me? Because I really enjoy it. Because it's not like work then, is it?
Yeah.
So you can do it all day long. Like it's not like I want to finish work at 6.
Yeah.
I love what I'm doing, so why should it finish at 6? If I want to carry on and do it, and that's when it starts to add up the results, I think. Yeah.
Oh, mate, thank you so much for your time.
Mate, thank you for having me. Honestly, it's an honour to be here, not only with you, to be your first episode.
Yeah, no, it's going to be cool.
It's kind of like a rounded journey. We started off in 2012.
Yeah.
And now we're here talking about how we've got here.
Everything that's happened in between.
So it's been a pretty cool experience for me as well. So thank you for having me.
Mate, thank you so much.
And good luck with the series as well.
Yes, thank you.
And retirement.
I'm going to put all of Sass's information, his YouTube channel, his Instagram below, because if you don't follow him, as you just heard, it's worth following because there is lots to come and it's going to be exciting. And obviously, mate, I'm going to be wishing you all the best for the Olympia, but
thank you.
I know regardless of how that goes, you have that physique that is worthy of it.
Thank you.
We know the sport, but I wish you all the best.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it a lot.
Again, guys, thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. This series is going to be a regular. So I'll put a little playlist. You can follow that or whatever. I don't even know if that's a thing. But once again, massive thanks to Sass. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.